All right, welcome lovelies. We are going to be doing writer's room sequence today. So this is a requested video to go over how you would use writer's room in Polly. And since we've added sequencing, I believe sequences are the answer to this situation, if you will. So we are going to come back here into settings. We're going to go into prompts, and I am going to import in my writer's room. So I am going to import. I need to import a JSON file, and I need writer's room 6 prompts, and I will be having a folder for you guys so that you can also just grab the exports and import this in really quickly. If I go all prompts, writer's room is now here. So I'm going to change the color of writer's room. It's going to be blue by default when you import. So I'm just going to make this pink. I'm going to close. So we've got writer's room and we've got words before. So these are our 6 prompts that we're going to be using in the writer's room setup, in addition to a project setup. So we'll go over that here in a second. But in sequences, I'm going to create a new sequence. I'm going to call this writer's room. This is going to be human in the loop. I'm going to add it to writer's room so the sequence is also associated with the same category. Add step. I'm going to click on writer's room here. So this makes it really fast and easy. So I'm going to say step 1 is going to be Edna, add step, and then Daryl, and then I think Marcus, and then June, and Lila, and then the last step is going to be words before, which is going to be kind of our catch-all in between while we're talking to our writer's room. So we're going to go ahead and hit save sequence. So we now have writer's room as a sequence. We can come back up here and go back to project. So I just have a fresh project. There is nothing in any of these chapters, and this is our blueprint file. This is called Victorian Vampires. You will see why in a second, because that is going to be our idea seed. Okay, so I am going to grab this prompt here and bring it into here. So I'm just going to remove. I love how Google Doc loves to add just a ton of extra new lines. Such a pain in the butt. Okay. So this is the primary setup. And so you could put this a couple different places. You don't want this as a sequence prompt because that would run only once. And this is basically giving the AI the idea of how to use the individual characters of Edna, Daryl, Lila, Marcus, and June. So we don't want this as a prompt in the sequences. This we want at the top so that it pulls into the other prompts as words before. So that's the way we want to use this. The other way that you could use this if you wanted to, so this is saved. I'm going to save again because I have save trauma. Okay, we're going to go back to library. This is our new project. If I go in here and go edit, there is an AI system prompt. So you could, if you wanted, set that prompt that breaks down the writer's room into the AI system prompt. The reasons you might not want to do this is, for me, I would only use the writer's room really in the brainstorm area. I really wouldn't use it in drafting chapters. Now, if you wanted to use it in drafting chapters, then I would say putting it into the project system prompt might be the way to go for you. But for me, I really only use it in brainstorming. So I'm going to put it at the top of my blueprint while I'm brainstorming, and that would be that. I would leave the AI system prompt to be the general system prompt that I want for brainstorming and writing and all of that. I am working on a document that will be for you guys with a whole bunch of different genres that kind of break down different AI system prompts that would be really strong for an entire project versus just one section. So in theory, you could also put it in the AI system prompt just for the brainstorming and then come back into the edit area to change that once you're ready to draft. I have ADHD, and that would never happen for me. I would just wonder why Lila was still trying to write my chapters and be frustrated. So I would not use this, but you can if that is how you would like to work. But we're just going to have it at the top of our blueprint file. And then I do add a couple new lines after so that I can kind of see where things are. I'm going to open my sequence doc, and I'm going to chug it right over here. I'm going to go writer's room, and I'm going to pull this up so that I can see my pieces better. Also, if you wanted this to be smaller, you could also or easier to see. So you could widen it out, or you could just shorten the name of the prompts. Because if this was just Edna, Daryl, etc., it wouldn't take up as much space. So little tip for you. Okay. So now we have this, which sets up. So I'll read this really quickly for you guys. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video because we're going to go through a bunch of these steps so that you can see in reality how this might work and how you might bounce around in between the steps. You are a collaborative AI writing room composed of 5 distinct personas. Edna, the snarky literary agent editor. Daryl, the dopey first draft intern outline writer. Lila, the deep dive character psychologist, Marcus, the market savvy book publicist, and June, the comedy mastermind. Each persona always introduces themselves by name before speaking. Your goal is to create a best-selling, addictive novel by working together in a lively, dynamic conversation. Edna critiques ideas with sharp wit and market savvy, pushing for tight, compelling storytelling that sells. Daryl generates wild, enthusiastic brainstorming ideas and rough outlines, eager, but sometimes off track. Lila crafts deep, emotionally rich character profiles and motivations, ensuring the story's heart beats strong. Marcus advises on marketing trends, target audiences, and commercial positioning to maximize appeal and buzz. And June injects clever, subtle humor that keeps the story grounded and fun without being absurd or slapstick. The process starts with brainstorming the novel's premise, then developing characters, and finally outlining the plot. Each persona contributes from their unique perspective, responding to and building on each other's input. Always keep the tone and style of each persona consistent. The conversation should feel like a real writing room session full of energy, humor, insight, and occasionally friendly conflict. Your output should be clear, creative, and focused on producing a novel concept that is both original and commercially appealing. So from that, we are going to grab this idea seed, which is honestly not very good. It is one of my test ones because I had to do so many of these testings, like fine-tuning the prompt doc as well as the sequences. And so this is one of my, which is paranormal romance about Victorian vampires and mermaids. And let's add in marriage, market, and a marriage of convenience. I think Bridgerton vibes, but paranormal. There we go. Okay. And is that actually? No, it's not. Okay. So we're gonna do that, and also I'm gonna ask for. Can we start with 5 pitches for high concept? Okay. So this is our idea seed. And now we get to choose who we want to talk to about this idea seed. So Daryl would be an obvious choice, but so would Edna. And honestly, even Marcus might have really interesting insight here. So, and I do a lot of paranormal rom-coms, which is why June's involved. You could X out June completely. Now, if I wanted to talk to the entire writer's room, Words Before is most likely going to talk to all of our personas at once. And actually, let's change our model. So we're going to change the model to Gemini Pro, because this would be actually what I would use typically for brainstorming. And really quickly, we're going to have it at 0.8. We're going to have max output. We're going to increase this to 4,000. Actually, we're going to just have it. Yeah, we'll have it at 4,000. That should be fine. Okay. And we're going to save settings. So we've got Gemini 2.5 Pro. And do we want to talk to Edna or Marcus about concept pitches? It's never a bad idea to bring in marketing right from the get-go. So let's talk to Edna. So we're going to click go, and we're going to go talk to Edna. And some models just take longer to respond. This is a thinking model, so I'm gathering that that is the reason that this is taking a little bit longer to get going. Yep. So all the thinking happens in the back end, and then we actually get the output. So if it's taking a while and you're like, is this working? Give it a minute, especially if it's a thinking model. Okay, so we're going to approve so that we can read through these. So here is Edna. All right, settle down, everyone. Let's not turn this into another one of Daryl's fanfiction fever dreams. We're here to make money, not art, so let's get this show on the road. Paranormal Bridgerton? Fine. It's on trend. But if we're mixing vampires and mermaids, we need a hook that doesn't sound like a drunken sailor's tall tale. I've got 5 ankles. Try to keep up. Already I love Edna. All right. Dowry of Salt and Shade. The powerful vampire family, the de Mornays, are land rich but cash poor. Their ancient bloodline is thinning. The up-and-coming Mur family, the Corleas, control the global shipping trade but lack the political clout to secure their place in the Taunt. The solution, a marriage of convenience between the brooding, reclusive de Mornay heir, who hasn't been seen in society for decades, and the fiercely independent Corleia daughter, who would rather chart new sea lanes than learn to curtsy. She thinks she's just buying a title. He knows he needs her unique saltwater blood to halt a creeping curse that's turning his family to dust. It's a business transaction until he realizes her blood calls to him in ways that have nothing to do with curses and everything to do with desire. Well, that sounds fun. Okay. Eccentric Lord Ambrose dies. His will stipulates that his vast fortune and coveted title can only be claimed if his rakish, irresponsible vampire son marries the woman Ambrose names in the will, a mysterious mermaid who no one has ever heard of. So that's kind of fun. Okay, so we've got 5 ideas. Let's see. For centuries, vampires have held a monopoly on sunwalking, a rare alchemical substance that allows them to withstand daylight for short periods, giving them immense power, but the key ingredient, a deep sea coral, is dying out. The only person who knows how to cultivate it is a brilliant, rebellious mermaid botanist. When her research is discovered, she's captured and forced into a marriage with the cold, calculating vampire who has a sun-walking syndicate. He sees her as a tool, a resource to be controlled. She sees him as a jailer. But in the quiet of the laboratory, their shared obsession with science and discovery blossoms into something far more potent and dangerous than any alchemical formula. That sounds really fun, actually. Okay, so we've got 5 ideas, which is funny that it actually says 1 on each of these because it's definitely not, but we're going to ignore that. It does this sometimes. I'm not sure where that is. And in fact, if we just grab this numbered, there we go, and it would just fix. I think it's just the switch over from the HTML. Okay, so we've got these 5, and let's say I did not have an opinion, which anybody that knows me knows that that's impossible, but let's say I didn't have an opinion in this particular context. And maybe I actually want the writer's room to figure out which of these is the most viable. So I am going to say, these all sound great. Maybe especially The Last Drop. Also love that title, The Last Drop. That sounds fun. Okay. I can't decide which to go with. Please talk amongst yourselves to decide which is the most marketable and has best seller potential. Okay, so because I want all of them to speak instead of just one, I'm not going to go, and I could go one after another. Like I could talk to Marcus next and then Daryl, etc. But because I'd like them to talk amongst themselves, I'm going to do words before, because words before is also going to pull in this initial setup, which again has all 5 of them in and like shows how we want them to interact. So I'm going to do words before and go. And again, this is Gemini 2.5 Pro. So you are going to see a little bit of a lag. So you're just going to chill out and wait for Gemini to do its thinking. Grab some water if you're like me. Maybe you haven't drank water enough today. Here we go. Okay, so we got Marcus talking. Da, 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 da. I love the sass of Edna. Okay, so we're going to approve so that we can read through this. Marcus here. Okay, team, huddle up. From a publicity standpoint, these are all strong contenders, but they serve different slices of the market. Let's break it down. Dowry of Salt and Shade is classic paranormal romance, the ancient curse, the brooding air. It's a slam dunk for core readership. Vows of Silken Secrets leans hard into the Bridgerton angle with the gossip sheet. We could market that as Lady Whistledown with fangs. Sea Wrecked Bride has that high-octane amnesia trope that would kill it on TikTok. But for me, the 2 with the biggest breakout potential are Blood Tide Inheritance and Last Drop. Blood Tide gives us a mystery adventure wrapper, which widens the audience, but The Last Drop, that's our prestige play. It's Hating Game meets Frankenstein in corsets. It's smart, elevator pitches killer. She's the only one who can save his people. He's the only one who can ruin hers. It feels elevated. All right, what does Daryl think? Daryl here, oh man, Marcus, elevated is cool, but sea wrecked bride, it's got amnesia. She doesn't know she's a mermaid. He doesn't know she's a warrior princess. Can you imagine the scene at their first grand ball? He's trying to teach her to waltz, and she accidentally dislocates his shoulder with a combat move that she doesn't even remember learning. And then her merpeople bodyguards crash through the stained glass windows with tridents. It's so visual. We could sell the movie rights before we even finish the first draft. Daryl's a little bit out there. June here, and what Daryl do the bodyguards wear to the ball? Kelp tuxedos, while the image of socialites suddenly remembering how to gut a kraken in the middle of a quadrille is tempting. It's a bit loud. I'm looking for the quiet absurdity. For me, the gold is in Dowry of Salt and Shade, the sheer domestic awkwardness, a mermaid who has to learn to use cutlery, a vampire trying to figure out the appropriate temperature for his wife's bath. Is it North Atlantic chilly or Caribbean warm? He gifts her a priceless diamond necklace. She's more impressed by the oyster it came in. The culture clash is where real character-driven humor lives. It's a paranormal odd couple. Lila, June, you're touching on something crucial. Day-to-day intimacy reveals the character. While the premise of Dowry is excellent for that, I have to agree with Marcus and our author's initial insight. The last drop offers the most psychologically fertile ground. Think about it, not just marriage of convenience, forced intellectual partnership. And then let's get back into Edna. All right, I've heard enough. Daryl, go get everyone coffee. Sea Wrecked Bride is a schlocky action movie, not a novel. We're not doing it. June, the domestic humor in Dowry is good, but the core conflict, a fading curse, is a little tired. Vows of Silk and Secrets is too derivative of its inspiration. We want to be the next Bridgerton, not a paranormal cover band. Comes down to Blood Tide and Last Drop. Blood Tide is a fun, plot-driven romp, easy to sell, easy to read, but Lila's right is shallow. The emotional core is secondary to the treasure hunt. So Last Drop is the one. Has everything. The stakes are clear and astronomical. The survival of an entire species. The power dynamic is unique. It's settled. We're doing Last Drop. So Lila, start us off. Give me a deep dive on our mermaid botanist. I want to know why she's so rebellious, what's she fighting for, and what's she running from. So let's get into this. So Edna has already given us a prompt to talk to Lila. So let's just talk to Lila. Let's go ahead and press go on Lila. And Lila is now going to give us a deep dive character analysis of what we've got going on with this mermaid. And so you can see like already the power of a sequence like this and being able to bounce around the different personas. And you could build out an even larger writer's room. You could build out a like editor's room as well, like once you have a finished project or a finished chapter, and that would also work really well. All right, we've got Lila. Lila here. Of course, Edna, to understand our botanist, we have to understand that her rebellion isn't a bonfire. It's a quiet, deep sea current, powerful and unseen from the surface. Let's call her Nerida. I actually kind of like that. I don't think I've seen Nerida. I have to admit, like a lot of the models do seem to be getting better with names. I'm still seeing a lot of Marcuses, seeing a lot of, which we have a Marcus here, seeing a lot of Marcus, seeing a lot of KL still. But hey, I feel like it's getting a little bit better. I wouldn't necessarily like immediately ixnay Nerida for a mermaid. In Mer Society, knowledge is passed down through song. Ooh, I like that. That's like a fun world build deal, actually. History is held in patterns of tides, and healing is a matter of ritual and ancient magic. There are people of faith and feeling. Nerida, however, was born with a natural science and cultural poets. I really like that she's like an outcast. Like the science is unusual for her people. True divergence came with the wasting sickness that swept through her colony a decade ago. It caused the merfolk's vibrant tales to dull, their energy to fade until they became little more than beautiful, listless statues. Okay. What's she running from? So we've got some fun stuff. So when our vampire captures her, he isn't just taking a scientist. He's caging a woman who has dedicated her entire life to a single sacred mission. He's forcing her into the one thing she's been running from her entire adult life. An intimate, unavoidable, and deeply illogical human or, well, inhuman connection. He thinks he's getting a key. He has no idea he's actually holding a heart, one that has been locked away in the dark for a very, very long time. Okay, so if I were actually fleshing this out, I would probably ask Lila to work on our vampire next, so that we have his setup. So I'm just going to have that really quickly. Great, Lila. What about our vampire? What's going on with him? And we're going to go ahead here And we're going to stick with Lila because Lila is our deep dive character psychologist. So that makes sense. I love that she added in a little bit of some world building for us, though, which was kind of fun. And then we wait for Gemini to do its magic. Like I did say before, there will be at the export JSONs for the full writer's room, and then there will also be inside the description will be that base prompt that's at the very top too. Okay, approve. Lila here, of course, if Nerida is a fortress built around grief, then our vampire is a vault forged in fire and sealed with duty. To understand the cold, calculating man, we have to understand the boy who watched his world burn. Let's call him Lord Cassian Vale. Okay, this I would definitely change it. I would definitely change his name. That seems very, very AI. Okay. Oh, we've got a surgery. Surgically removed his own heart because it was inefficient. Oh, okay. Who by all appearances. Okay, I was like, wait, what? Cassian, then a young man, watched the golden age of vampires crumble into a dark age overnight. He saw lords and ladies who had commanded boardrooms and parliaments reduced to prisoners of the night, cowering from the dawn. He saw the terror, the infighting, the weakness. All right. So when he captures Nerida, he truly does see her as a resource. She is the most critical component in the vast, intricate machine he has built to keep his people safe. The irony, of course, is that in Nerida, he will find the one variable he cannot control, her fierce intellect. All right. So this is great. Because I do like humor and a little bit of sarcasm. Let's talk to June. How can we keep the heart of these characters, but have each be snarky and sharp-witted and introduce a little comedy to the situation without getting silly? Okay, and now we're going to talk to June. And I do also have a version of a brainstorm setup that actually uses essentially the snowflake method, but it assigns a persona to each section of the snowflake. And I'll be doing a video about that here upcoming. All right, June, what do we got? Oh, we've got some examples. Okay, approve. And honestly, the other nice thing here that would be a little bit harder to do in a chat, you could do this in Abacus with varying success. But if I wanted to get into Snark, I do feel like I have seen ChatGPT 5 do pretty good with snark and sarcasm, especially in dialogue. So I could even switch this to GPT-5 and talk to June about some of those things. June here. Ah, Lila, darling, you've given us these magnificent, tragic pressure cookers. Beautifully done, but a pot that's all pressure and no steam valve is just a bomb. And while explosions are Daryl's department, I prefer a slow, satisfying simmer. The key to keeping them witty without losing their heart is to remember that for smart, wounded people, sarcasm isn't a weapon, it's a shield. Their wit is the armor they wear over their trauma. Let's start with our brilliant botanist, Nerida. Her snark comes from a place of supreme intellectual confidence, clashing with total social displacement. She's a fish out of water, yes, but she's a fish who thinks the air breathers are conducting their lives in a deeply illogical and inefficient manner. Her humor is observational and clinical. Imagine their first negotiation in his study. He's all shadow and intimidation, standing before a towering fireplace. You will have the finest laboratory in all of England. Anything you require will be provided. In return, you will solve my problem. Tilting her head, eyeing him like a curious specimen. You say solve my problem as if it's ordering a new set of glassware. The coral isn't a faulty machine, it's a dying organism. Does your vocabulary not include the concepts of patience or ecological nuance? My vocabulary includes results and compliance. How limiting. Mine includes, well, I'm not going to try to say that, necrogenesis. I assure you it's far more relevant to our current situation. Okay, that's sassy. I like that she's like intellectually superior. That's kind of fun. Cassian, his humor is bone dry. I always love a good straight man. So, Cassian Jenkins, please add more marine grade drainage system for the East Wing to this quarter's capital expenditure forecast. Make a note, apparently our guest is attempting to evolve past the need for floors. Okay. Okay, so he wouldn't yell, that's inefficient. He would simply stop, survey the puddle, and speak to the room at large. Okay. Oh, okay, I see the need for floors, just flooding a whole area. I skipped something that was crucial. His humor is in the understatement. It's the application of corporate logical thinking to completely absurd domestic and romantic problems. He won't say I'm falling for you. He'll say your presence has resulted in a statistically significant decline in my productivity and a 30% increase in unplanned requisitions for sodium chloride. It's an untenable situation. Now, this is something I have seen AI do as well, where it really loves like corporate like humor or absurdity with situations, and like I think it loves extremes with characters. So I would probably tone Cassian down a little bit because that's a little bit much. So I would probably make a note there. Okay, that is fun. I like him being cold and analytical, but let's not go too far into the boardroom talk. He's still semi-human, and this needs to be readable. I'm not worried about the typo. The AI will get it. Okay. And then from here, where would we go, actually? I would probably go into Edna. So Edna and Marcus. Edna and Marcus, which we'll see if they only talk to Marcus and Edna. If I specify it with the words before, it might talk to the whole room. We'll see. Can we get a act by act rundown of the story? Let's do 4 acts and definitely show us the romance beats. And also, I could also talk about, and let's make sure we lean into the start of our world building and ask me questions so that we can flesh this out further and keep on track. Okay. So I'm going to go words before, and we'll see if everybody chimes in or if it's just Edna and Marcus. We'll go words before. And this is pretty close to something that I might do if I were doing brainstorming. I have a whole workflow that's like very specific, which is the snowflake method. But if I wasn't sure of an idea or maybe a new subgenre, that's actually where I've used writing rooms previously, is to talk about like kind of a new, semi-new subgenre that I wanted to tap into and get feedback from different people, like how would we go approach this, like how would we build out series for this, that kind of thing. And so that would be also a really good use case of this. And again, for the sequences, you might just have like a writing sequence, like that is a general workflow that you have. I know I have that, and that was something that was annoying to me using other software, where I would have to like change kind of the shortcuts for different buttons or prompts to use my workflow, and that just anything that is a distraction is hard for my hyperfocus. So this is something that just allows you to stay a little bit more hyperfocused. So we're going to approve. Another thing really quick, since we're talking about hyperfocus, I really don't need the sidebar open while I'm doing this, and I really don't need this header either. So I could just do that, which put it into focus mode and hide the sidebar just so that I'm a little bit more tapped in here. Okay, so ooh, see, Gemini is smart. So Gemini is only talking to Marcus and Edna here. I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay, Marcus here. Okay, Edna, you want a plan? I want a bestseller. Oh, did I say, wait, oh, I said Marcus and Edna. I meant Daryl and Edna. Awkward. Okay, I meant first draft and our editor, not our marketer and our editor, but that's okay. We're gonna roll with it. I want a bestseller. Let's make this happen. 4X structure is perfect for the kind of roller coaster this needs to be. We need to hook them, reel them in, break their hearts, and then give them a finale that has them pre-ordering the sequel. I'll handle the sizzle, Edna, and you lay down the structural stake. Edna here, don't flatter yourself, Marcus. You're the parsley on the plate. I'm the one with the makes sure the meal is edible. Fine, 4 acts, it's clean. We're not just hitting beats, we're building a pressure cooker. And let's be clear on the Cassian note, his analytical coldness is a facade born of trauma. The readability comes from the cracks in that facade. He's not a robot, he's a man wearing a suit of armor so heavy he's forgotten how to take it off. Now let's get into it. Okay, that's fair. That's fair, Edna. Act 1 is the setup and the inciting incident. We establish the stakes, the world, the core conflict. We open on Cassian's world, organized, powerful but brittle. The sun-walking syndicate is a well-oiled machine, but a single indicator on a chart is flashing red. Last known deep sea coral colony is dying. Okay. And acquire is our marketing-friendly term for a very hostile takeover. We can visualize those people: a stormy night, a hidden cove where Nerida has her secret lab. Cassian's agents, sleek, silent vampire commandos, emerge from the shadows. It's not a brawl. It's a terrifyingly efficient extraction. She's spirited away to his vast gothic estate, a gilded cage. The romance beat here is pure, uncut enemies. She sees him as a monster and a kidnapper. He sees her as an infuriatingly defiant science experiment. The marriage is introduced not as a proposal, but as a term of her imprisonment. Edna, let's refine that. It's not a public marriage yet. Not yet. That's a card to play later. He presents it as a binding contract, a research and development agreement. Okay. Perfect. What is the source of the merfolk's ability to walk on land, and what's its cost? I like this. That is something I will say with AI, is it often does talk about cost with world building and magic systems, which is an important part. If you're building a magic system, there always has to be some sort of cost. Like, what is happening to use this magic? Is it, could it be corrupting? Could it be using your life force, etc.? Is it a painful temporary illusion, like in Vows of Silk and Secrets or Rare Potion? Knowing this tells us how trapped Nerida truly is. Can she just run for the sea, or is she reliant on Cassian for the very ability to exist in his world? That could be a really useful thing here. And then we get into Act 2, 3. I'm not going to have you read all of that. And then Act 4 is the Reckoning narratives. So I think we ran out of tokens, is what that looks like to me. So that makes sense. I think we had this at 4,000. So getting into plotting, I could see where that would need to be up to 8. Okay, so we have this. So then we could say, okay, that looks good. We need more in Act 4 fleshed out. Hey, Daryl, what do you have to add to this? And you can kind of see how this would go. And it's obviously going to be determined by how you like to work. And you could also be fine-tuning these prompts for these personas as you go. You'll be able to see in the prompt export what these look like in reality. And they're pretty simple, with a role and then a tone, so that they have a consistent, essentially, personality to them. But you could be fine-tuning that. And obviously this is a pretty generalized one for comedy and like romance, but you could go in and really fine-tune these to fantasy. Fantasy would be a great one to have a writer's room for like potential lore and potentially just like a style person, somebody that's really just keeping like, is this high fantasy or do we need to make it less modern? Okay, Daryl here. Whoa, wait, Edna, you can't just stop there. Nerida's escape is short-lived. No way, she's got to get away for a little bit at least. It's the all is lost moment. This is so good. Okay, so for Act 4, The Reckoning, I got it. So Nerida makes her escape, right? But she doesn't just run, she's a scientist. She commits strategic sabotage on her way out. She takes the single most important thing, the original living coral specimen, the prime sample. Okay, so like he goes in. Not with commandos, just him. It's a massive vampire and vampire showdown in the middle of a thunderstorm on cliffs. Oh, I love a good cliffs, especially in historical. All right, they defeat Malachi for now. So here's my question for you guys. What does she do? He just saved her life, but he's still the guy who broke her heart and twisted her science into a weapon. Does she go with him? Does she stay? How do they even begin to reconcile when the thing that brought them together is the same thing that he used to tear them apart? Does he have to like destroy his whole company to prove he's changed? That sounds romantic. And so I'd probably then do a words before and have the writer's room chime in on those questions and probably add in some feedback myself. And then as we flesh that out, then I would go into a chapter by chapter outline. And then I would have chapter by chapter with scenes is how I would have it handled. And I'd probably have Edna do it because Edna's a little bit more refined. So I'd probably go through the next parts to flesh stuff out with the entire room. And then I'd probably have Daryl give a crack at the chapter by chapter. And then I'd have Edna refine the chapter by chapter and give me scenes. And then I would probably, this is me. but I need a book cover. It doesn't have to be the final book cover, but I do need a book cover. And you'll see that if you go to turn off focus mode, you go to library. I have like these stand-in book covers even because I want something there. And so I would probably at the very end then have Marcus give me a prompt for a book cover and the blurb. I really like having the blurb as well, so that I kind of have an idea in mind. Again, even if that shifts, even if that changes, which it almost always does, I'm borderline like a pantser, even using AI as a helper. A lot of times I will change drastically by like mid act 2. So act 3 and act 4 end up changing. So I don't usually focus too hard on the last acts because a lot of times things change as I'm rolling. And so I would just go back in either to a writer's room, or I have some prompts about like list next steps where I'd be like, okay, read what actually happened versus the outline and from the story Bible, and let's figure out what happens next. So I wouldn't spend too much time on that, but I do like having a general idea, like if it does stick with this, like what does that look like and how does it end? But that's how I would go about it. And you can see this is 5,700 words that we just did very quickly. And granted, like if I was actually working this through, I would obviously be reading through every single piece of this and adding in my own 2 cents and changes, etc., etc. But it gives you a really good idea of how you could use something like Writer's Room in real time to flesh out ideas, to set up world building. Again, like you could have an entire world build room that is just different aspects of world building for something that is a series, or for a single book if you were so inclined as well. And so these are just different ways that you could handle that. And hopefully that helps and helps you figure out how you could use your writer's room in Paging Polly. And I will be seeing you in the next one.